Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has announced she will resign from Congress, with her departure taking effect on January the 5th of 2026. She revealed this decision on a video posted on X, formerly Twitter, on November 21st, 2025, saying that she will not serve out the rest of her third term. Multiple outlets report that she will step down just after 5 years in office. Timing is important because this having taken her seat first in January 2021, which is a point in which members typically become fully vested in their congressional pension system. So that makes a difference. Now, Greene has not publicly framed this resignation as a financial move, but the timing has drawn attention from many commentators, including this guy here on the internet. In her resignation message and the follow-up interviews that she's given for this particularly, and it's only been like a day and a half, Greene focused less on policy wins and more on her frustration with former President Donald Trump and the Republican Party leadership. She described feeling used and attacked by Trump after she broke with him over issues like the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, some U.S. foreign policy towards Iran and Israel, and healthcare subsidies. And she compared her situation to that of a battered wife who is refusing to remain in a toxic relationship any longer. Greene also accused GOP leaders of sidelining her and ignoring what she calls everyday Americans, saying that Washington is broken and that neither party truly represents her voters, so she's done. Greene's exit comes at a time when White House Republicans already have a thin majority, and the resignation will trigger a special election in her Northwest Georgia district, of course. Under Georgia's laws, Governor Brian Kemp will call that election, and analysts say the seat is still likely to remain Republican, as it has been for a while, though the race could expose deeper rifts inside the state's GOP in the process. In Washington, some conservatives warned that losing a reliable right-wing vote could make it harder for Speaker Mike Johnson to pass any partisan bills, while others quietly welcomed the removal of a figure who has often clashed with their own party. During her 5 years in Congress, Greene became one of the most polarizing figures in American politics. She was stripped of her committee assignments pretty early in her first term over some past support for conspiracy theories and some violent rhetoric, but then later reassigned and used her platform to go back on the attack against Democrats, fellow Republicans, COVID-19 policies, and U.S. support for Ukraine specifically. Supporters praised her for fearless fighting and conservative causes, sticking up for gun rights and opposition to abortion. But many critics, and there were many, saw her as a source of misinformation and division and just straight up crazy, hurting the image of the House. Many obituaries of her time, which I guess were written pretty prematurely, showed at her time in office, noted that she generated far more media attention than major legislative achievements. She was more important for being on Fox News than showing up for anything that was reported, any legislation by Fox News, if you will. Because members of Congress become vested in their pension just after 5 years in service, Greene's chosen resignation date, which is literally days after hitting the 5-year mark, has fueled speculation against what could be just a cash grab, financial security that may have been part of a calculation in the first place, even though she has not said anything to that publicly. Commentators, like this guy, also note that stepping away from Congress does not mean she's leaving politics, and she could move into media, grassroots organizing, or even consider future campaigns where she is not tied closely to Trump. Remember, there was rumors that she wanted to run for the Senate and do some other things, but she was pushed back held back literally by the MAGA organizations. And so now, with a little time away, maybe she'll go back on the attack going forward. Some analysts actually frame her exit as a sign of the growing cracks inside the broader MAGA movement itself. Prominent hard right figures are openly questioning how Trump is still in charge and managing things in the way of his policies that just aren't quite working and are making very little sense these days. It's become our thing in the Conversation Project when we do these types of stories for things you might have heard or anything. They give you a pro and a con, a plus or a minus, two sides as to wrap it up, because it's a conversation that can go either way. And just because I feel one way doesn't mean you don't. So let's do this right here. A pro standpoint from the resignation of Greene. It could lower the temperature in Congress. It could remove one of the most combative voices, because it will remove a combative voice. And it may give voters in her district a fresh choice while she leaves her pension rights up to herself. That made no sense. Well, yeah, she gets her pension and can get somebody new into Congress to speak for the people of Northwest Georgia. It also sends a message that even strong loyalists can walk away when they feel a party or leader is no longer matching their principles. You can stand up to the person who's not doing the thing they said they're going to, even when it's Donald Trump. But yeah, on the con side, critics argue that the timing of departure is right after her pension vesting, and it looks pretty much self-serving and a way to pull out and make some money. deepened distrust in with her voters who already were kind of worried about what kind of politician she was going to turn out to be in the future, not quite living up to her standards, if you will, but others worrying that stepping down instead of facing GOP voters in a primary allows her to dodge accountability for years of divisive rhetoric and just being MTG, which may be a way of making money on its own. Remember, Sarah Palin was able to pull her vice presidential run and actual run as a governor of Alaska into something that was a bit more lucrative, at least on the surface, turning more reality show into actual commentary, but it worked for her. Maybe this is the exit, the off-ramp for Marjorie Taylor Greene, which will help us heal it all. Less of her out there being the flamethrower that she was may make life a little easier for Congress and all of us. Or maybe a new flamethrower will take her spot and be just as combative going forward. We know Jasmine Crockett is not afraid of taking on anybody, so we'll see what happens there. But let's just see what happens with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, as she said so far, is leaving office in about 2 months and leaving it with a pension from Congress. It's sort of a good luck, Godspeed, in some cases good riddance. But we'll see how we will survive without Marjorie Taylor Greene in her seat in Georgia. But I'm pretty sure she's not going anywhere anytime soon in our political lives.